Okay, welcome everyone to this edition of the Bin Chickens Vinyl Fair podcast. I am Chris, and with me today I am speaking to one of the guys who will be DJing at our Vinyl Fair on June 15th, Tony Trixx. How are you doing, Tony?
Pretty good. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing pretty well. You know Julie, yes? You're her friend?
Yes, yes. I actually met Julie through another friend of mine, and we connected this year. So
Oh,
it's been pretty cool.
very nice. Do you like her? Do you think she's all right?
Yeah, I think she's awesome. She's a good person.
I've been kind of going back and forth on it, so I was just wondering how other people looked at her,
Yeah,
Just,
no, she's
just
cool. She's cool.
so your DJ name you perform under DJ Tony Trixx, yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so how did you come up with that? If, was there any sort of reason for it, specific reason, or was it the first thing you thought of?
I did give it some thought, and at first I thought I was probably going to be sued by, the Trick Cereal Post. But I figured, it was one of my favorite cereals growing up as a kid, and but at the same time, I was like, tricks, like as in tricks, like you're doing tricks up there, like. So I was
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna add like two X's. It looks kind of cool, and I'm just gonna go with that, and roll with it. But I mean, I was only 11 years old when I came up with the name, so I've been rolling with it for 19 years now. So,
oh,
and it's stuck. I think people are just like, "Hey, what's up, Tony? Tony Tricks?" It's like, it's kind of it flows, with everything. And I work with one of my graphic designers, and we were able to come up with a cool logo too, so it doesn't look so like kind of corny, But I think people kind of like it. It just kind of, you kind of remember it. It's easy to remember, and I tend to do a few tricks up in there every once in a while. So, but yeah,
I I definitely am always a fan of alliteration. So the double T's in there that definitely helps keep it memorable. So good
yes,
work on that.
yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you've been into DJing since you were 11?
Yes, yes, definitely. Since I was 11. Uh, I obviously loved music before then, but I didn't really get into the craft till I was 11, and I started doing more research on it, and got my first turntables at 11 years old. So
Oh wow. Now
so yeah.
what turntables were those first ones? And do you still have them?
No, I do not. I actually sold them. They were just a couple of Geminis. They weren't the greatest.
Right.
They had a lot of issues when I was out and DJing. Obviously this. There was just a lot of rumbling, and a lot of the bass would kind of skip the needle every once in a while, and the needles weren't that great. Now they have really excellent, like great needles out there that are not as expensive as before. So now you're
Yeah.
able to swap them a lot easier. But back then, man, it was a struggle. I mean, had to do the whole coin trick and everything. I went through all the struggles as everybody did.
Yeah, yeah. So what are you rocking now?
Right now, I actually rocking with CDJs. It's a lot easier, and
Oh, okay.
controllers. I am
Okay.
looking to get back into buying my again another turntable just to have at home to listen to records and all. But yeah, I've been just rocking with like Pioneer gear. I think it's the industry standard, and just rocking the CDJs and all that. It's a lot easier. Just carry CDs, and now it's digital. Everything's all digital. So all you do is just carry literally like one little flash drive you go with everywhere, and
Yeah,
it feels very weird because I'm so used to carrying all the crates and
right.
butt loads of CDs, but but yeah.
Um, okay, so real quick, so you said you're rocking the Pioneer gear, obviously the CDJs. Do you use a Pioneer mixer as well? Or you said you have a controller?
Yes, I actually was using like a two-channel. They call it the DJM 450 Pioneer
Okay.
controller, which I'm selling at the moment. So if anybody's interested, definitely hit me up on that
Well,
little cheap plug there.
sure, sure. And the reason why I'm asking is because I've been rocking a DJM 600. It's probably been about 12 or 13 years ago that I bought it. And it recently, maybe like a year ago, like the master outs like at the left side of the master out, it's like there's something messed up with it. I don't know exactly what's wrong with it, but I know that the sound comes in and out when I'm trying to plug into sound systems and shit. So I need to get a new mixer, and I'm part of a DJ group on a Facebook DJ group, and like so they'll talk about like various equipment related issues from time to time. And I've just heard recently that like people kind of like shitting on Pioneer mixers. So I like they just said like as far as like the sound, like it's like compressed and it's like you're better off getting like a Vestax or a Rain or something. So I was just wondering like because since I'm in the market now, I need to get a new mixer. I was just wondering if you had any experience with other mixers, if you could recommend other brands, or have you always just rocked Pioneer?
Very good question, Chris. Yeah, I love this. Actually, I was rocking. Well, like I told you before, my two first set of turntables were Geminis. So I did have that Gemini mixer. It was really old, but it did take a. I mean, it was solid. It was like all metal. And it did take a beating, and it was great. But I wouldn't stir anybody into that. I'm not bashing the brand. I think it's an
Sure.
okay brand to start with, but I feel like it is a starter, more of a starter set. But um,
Cool.
I have had a lot of good reviews and feedback from using like the Vestax. It's harder to get them now because I don't know if they're making any newer ones that I know of recently, but and especially for turntablism and turntablists, I heard they love just the Vestax and how the fader works and how all everything is built in it. Now, I it's interesting that I hear this that a lot of people are bashing the Pioneer mixers because till this day I haven't had an issue. I've rocked the 4 channels, and I've had this one that I'm selling. Nothing really is wrong with it. Everything is
Mhm.
like perfect and immaculate, and they build them pretty good still.
Yeah.
They're not all like cheap plastic or anything like that. So, and the fader feels amazing. And I mean, you can beat the crap out of them, and they work well. I mean, I've gone to clubs where they still have one of the oldest models, and there's like knobs and faders missing, and the thing's still rocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I don't know. I mean, I think the sound sounds actually better than other mixers. I feel like they do a good job with their sound engineering. It's very interesting to hear this. I'm gonna actually have to after our like chat today. I'm gonna have to look into more of the complaint side. It's interesting to hear just to hear the different sides. The
Yeah.
other one
Yeah.
yeah, and then I've had a Behringer 4 channel mixer that I've rocked with before, and those are also pretty solid mixers. But again, the sound is not as articulate or as that as well built as the Pioneer. I mean, you move the knob, you got to move it probably 2 times more to like where you want it or prefer it to actually hear the change. And
Yeah.
in a Pioneer mixer, when I move the knobs, I right away instantly can hear the my headphones and my Q phones the change. So yeah, I mean that's interesting.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your input on that because I had never had a problem with it. Like I said, I've been using this for like 12 years, however long I've had it. And I think before I got that mixer, I think the first mixer that I actually started out with, I had one of those because I got into it when I was like 19 years old. I had just moved out to Colorado, and my friends for my birthday got together. Everybody chipped in and got me one of those like DJ in a box setups, right? Where it's like I don't even think they were
Yeah.
direct drive turntables. I think they were belt driven turntables from Newmark and like a super cheap like Newmark mixer, right? It was like $250 for like, the whole thing. So you can
Yeah.
imagine the quality of what you were getting with that. Um, so I had that for a little while, and then once I decided to get serious about it and upgrade my shit, I think I was rocking a Rain 52 mixer for a while, and that was always real solid. I really liked it. Um, and then reading like industry magazines and following the club scene, like all I was hearing was like Pioneer DJM 600, DJM 600. This is like the club standard around the world. So I was like, fuck. Well, I want to have what the clubs have. So
Of course.
I probably didn't need it, but when somebody tells me like this is the top of the line thing, I'm like, well then I fucking want the top of the line thing. But I never had a so I've never had a problem with it myself either. So that's why I was just wondering if you had any input on it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to do some more research because maybe I just ran into some Pioneer haters. I don't know.
It could be, yeah, definitely, most likely. Yeah.
So what sparked your interest though? I mean, at 11 years old, like what made you think like how did you even find out like what DJing was at 11? I'm trying to think about how I was when I was 11, and I definitely didn't know like like what DJing was or what it meant or that it was a thing that you could like get into. So how did you actually get into that?
Funny story is, this is kind of cool, I think, because not a lot of people experience this, but you know, my family there were big partiers when they were young. I mean, yeah, they were living the lifestyle of work hard, play hard. At the time,
Sure.
so they were very responsible at the same time. But at the same time, hey, when it was time for the weekends and things like that to party it up, they would party it up.
Yeah.
And I think they were doing it in the most responsible way as well. But we had a they I see my family was very involved with, like, the DJs, and at the time they were underground DJs. So I'm talking about Julian Jumping Perez and
Right, right.
all these guys, and like Tim Spin and Shomer. And
Yeah.
I haven't had the chance to get on like a podcast with them too. It would be awesome because I'm pretty sure they knew some of my family. And
Oh
I
wow,
haven't had a yeah, it's pretty cool. Haven't had the chance to connect with them, but once we do, hopefully we can talk about this. But basically, they would get there, they would do, like, it was like either basement parties or house parties. And me as a kid, I'm there, and they're treating this like it is a party, but it's more like a family party. Everybody's gathered, and I'm watching this, and I'm at the time I'm probably like 7 or 8 years old, so I'm just watching them play, and I'm like, at the whole time I'm like, what the heck is going on, and what are they
yeah,
doing? But I'm watching them as they're kind of controlling the crowd, kind of controlling, my family, and what they're in, and the music and how we're grooving. Heck, I was even dancing myself. I've always been dancing ever since I was a little kid. Just went out there and danced.
yeah,
So I would always watch them, and they would bring in the beacons, like the police beacon things. And because I
yeah.
mean the lighting has totally, obviously we started with, like little stuff like that, and now it's evolved like crazy. But and yeah, I think that just stayed with me and my memories. And when I turned 11, I'm like, finally, like, I'm read more. Internet was a lot heavier, a little more popular. You could do more research. And I'm like, let's just get into this. I really want to do this.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely. Yeah. So
Um,
just very, very exciting stuff.
so first I gotta say, I'm excited to talk with you because you are a DJ, and now I've enjoyed the podcast that I've done with everybody that I've spoken to. I love talking to people, but obviously as a DJ, like there's like 1,000 questions I want to ask you. I want to know like what's your fucking top 5 tracks of all time? Like what's your favorite record that you own? What's the record that you were never able to get that's like your holy grail? Like I just have like a ton of shit that I want to get into. So I'm gonna try to like narrow it down and like hopefully this all makes sense and when it comes out in the wash. But so you started with vinyl and then like where did you go buy the records at? Like what shop?
At the time, you know what? Really, I wish I could have had a specific shop that everybody would go to, but I was blessed to just have family that would just, buy me records every once in a while and just give them to me.
Oh nice.
Um, and then I also gained a heavy collection through like my uncles and my mom. But I was always just rocking, like, I wasn't really having anything like brand new. It was always like the Michael Jackson album, and and
Yeah.
BG stuff for 70s and 80s, and the Eagles and things like that. But I was never able to go into a shop and purchase my first vinyl, unfortunately. So
Oh,
this Bin Chickens event coming up is going to be huge for me because I'm actually going to get the satisfaction of, hey, I pick up the vinyl, and I finally feel it and everything, and look at it and look at the art. And and buy my first vinyl. Like like
Oh
just me.
wow, that is awesome. I did not know that this would be your first real opportunity to buy some wax. That makes me happy.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be huge.
Um, it's funny that you bring up some of those B96 mix masters from back in the day, because one of the uh, one of the guys that I was always a big fan of was Bad Boy Bill,
Yes, definitely.
and so like a couple of years ago, well, it's probably closer to like 10 years ago, I bought this music DVD at some store I was at, where it was Chicago based. It was like a two DVD set of like Chicago. It was called like the Chicago LP, I think, and it was just like interviews with like it was like with 50 people, just like all the DJs that you ever heard of from Chicago, like all the music producers, like just like 5, 10, 15 minute, like just like interviews with these people. And I was just sitting there transfixed. And Bad Boy Bill was one of the interviews on there. And he's giving the interview. The interviewer is like in the passenger seat, and Bad Boy Bill's driving his car. And he's driving like through the suburbs. And he drove through my hometown suburb of Hillside, Illinois. And he drove past my high school and like pointed it out. I went to Proviso West High School. Big ups, P Dubs. Um, we drove. He drove past Proviso West, and he pointed out the high school. He's like, yeah, he's like, and I remember this school because they know how to play some basketball out here. And I was like, it sounds so stupid, but it was like I always loved Bad Boy Bill growing up, and so for him to like drive through my hometown, point out my high school, and like give it props, I was like, that was really cool. I just wanted to share that once you said like Julian Jumpin' Perez's name because it brought me back to that. So just sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome, man. That's really cool, actually.
So,
Uh,
what kind of music do you fuck with? I think you told me deep house and tech house, or did I get that wrong?
oh yeah, yeah, you got that right. That's my main go-to music, but obviously, growing up in in a Hispanic family, I pretty much am universal. I rock with all sorts of music. I mean, from the Spanish stuff like the merengue and the reggaeton to the stuff we have now. I mean, I can do trance. I can do, my ears are pretty like focused to also. I mean, I think I've been exposed to like almost everything and anything out there, especially that I took, a lot of private events when, growing up from 11 to now, and I still do. So, I get the times where, you have an Italian family that, is very traditional and wants some Italian music or, vice versa. And I just very, very universal with it. I like messing around with all sorts of music, but my definitely go to, I think it comes from I think this is a Chicago thing. Like I like the tech house, the deep house. It just, and
Yeah,
even the classic house itself, it just drives me in, man.
yeah. No, I,
It,
I, I, I definitely know. I definitely know what you're talking about there. So I wanted to ask you because I've probably asked a bunch of different people over all the years that I've been. I'm approaching my 40s now, so I've been into the DJing thing for a while, and then just music in general before that. So I've had these conversations with like 1,000 people in my life about like specifically about like house music or dance music, like, how do you define this genre or that genre? I still don't think I have a firm grasp on what deep house is. Um, can you explain that a little bit or like kind of like maybe some artists or tracks that I might have an idea like, okay, this is what he's talking about when he says deep house.
okay. Um, it's I definitely understand where you're coming from. It could be very difficult to identify this kind of music. I think people just started kind of labeling deep house just for with a certain sound that they've been producing with. Um, but I definitely can give you an artist that I think is like obviously deep house and um, let's see, going through all my stuff here. I would say that a good deep house song. I want to try to make sure I get a good one to
Sure.
kind of bring into the conversation, right? So, um, let's see.
Because I've always thought deep house was like there maybe wasn't a whole lot of like builds.
Yeah.
It's kind of more like a pulsating rhythm that kind of like didn't really get too high or too low necessarily.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
as compared to like other genres of house, like progressive house or like trance, obviously with like these huge like 2-minute builds and then the drop and then the explosion. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Definitely.
okay,
um,
okay,
I've been messing a lot with the Disciples. They're called. I believe they're from London, and I don't know if one of the guys. I was actually it was kind of cool. They're really chill, down to earth guys, even though they're really big and they're big in the UK.
mhm,
I was talking to one of them, and I think he got a lot of inspirations from the Chicago house, like the actual Chicago traditional house, and
yeah,
they do a lot of this what we call deep house, and like I said, I think it's just the way that like you said too, like a lot of the other house music or genres has a lot more like build-ups and explosions and all that good stuff, and with deep house is just it's just one rhythm, like one basic rhythm, but then you can add all the other factors, like all the other sounds in there. But
sure,
yeah, I would definitely recommend the Disciples, just because they're not just from Chicago, and they bring other styles to the deep house genre. Um,
sure,
yeah, but I think yeah, that's what I would call deep house. But
okay,
everybody has, it's like EDM, right? Like where it's like a very just broad like genre explanation EDM, but then there's a lot of stuff that could be EDM.
yeah. No, well, first of all, thank you for the Disciples. I did write Disciples down. I'm gonna check them out, for sure. Um, you know, I was dating somebody. This was a while back. Maybe like it's probably around when like it's probably like 2012. Like Swedish
Okay.
House Mafia kind of came
Yeah.
out. Like I think I remember first hearing about them maybe in like '08 or '09 kind of, and then
Uh-huh.
like 2010, right? Like they just exploded, and the whole like big house scene like exploded, and EDM in general exploded, and everybody was just like, talking about EDM, EDM, EDM. Um, so like as somebody who had been listening to electronic dance music, house music, trance music, techno music for fucking, 20 years to that point. Like, on the one hand, I was excited that it was finally getting its commercial due, that I thought like, more people need to hear electronic music because it's my favorite music in the world, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but it also there was kind of like there was a part of me that was kind of like frustrated when people would just like say like I love EDM, EDM, because like EDM to me, like just that term even is like it kind of is not representative of the vast umbrella of genres that electronic dance music actually is. You know what I'm
E-
saying? Like when
exactly.
people when people say EDM, they're talking about dubstep a lot, and I don't know how you feel about dubstep, but I cannot stand dubstep. Um, so I apologize if you like it. Maybe you like it. Do you have a feeling one way or the other?
Actually, you know what? I can only stand it for so long. I got a lot of my friends, they're a lot younger than I am. I'm 30 right now, so
Yeah.
and I can only listen to it for like maybe 15 minutes, or maybe even less. It depends on the. It's just it
Uh,
depends on the rhythm. Sometimes it doesn't even have like a set rhythm. It's just a bunch of mixture of experimental stuff in there, but the kids love it.
exactly, and
I'm
that's why
just
like
like,
so I get I have an internal struggle with myself because I don't want to be that old fuddy-duddy who's like, telling the young kids like, get off my lawn, from my rocking chair on the porch. Like, because I do want other people to like more and more people. I want people to be in love with electronic dance music like I've always been, but like dubstep was like the ugliest version of it that people could fall in love with. So it was like, don't call it EDM and like don't listen to that shit. Like listen to fucking trance, listen to fucking break beats, get into jungle, listen to hardcore, gabber, like do hard house. Like there's a fucking thousand things you get into that are like, you know, beautiful rhythms, beautiful melodies, beautiful vocals. Like, and I just never heard any of those with dubstep. So I'm gonna get off my dubstep rant for now, but um, just that term EDM, like it conjures up like this. And the reason why I brought it up was because the woman I was dating like 7 years ago, when it started to really explode, she was like really like getting into it. She's like, I fucking love EDM. And I'm like, yeah, but you shouldn't. Like, you should be listening to like, I have 100 artists I can put a CD in for you right now. And this is what you should be fucking liking because this is better. But that relationship
yeah.
ended. My hatred of dubstep never did though. So
And I mean, I could see one of the reasons why, right?
Right.
With the music disagreement.
I should have known at that point.
Yeah.
Missed a red flag there. But so okay,
Oh man.
so let's see. Like I said, there's a lot of things I want to ask you. So you do events now. You do the controller now, and that so like you said, you have a flash drive with like you've got like 20,000 songs or some shit on there. Yeah.
Yes, I do. I usually use the flash drive when it's like events for, like the downtown events. They don't allow you to bring the controller. A lot of places are very fussy with that. I don't know what it is. It's like a power trip to them or something.
Sure.
Um, or what I do is, yes, I bring in a controller. I have a really old controller from Pioneer that is just for tractor and
Okay.
like tractor software by Native Instruments for the listeners that are still trying to figure out their one specific thing that they want to choose, because I know there's Serato, there's tractor, and now there's Record Box, which I am messing around with as well. But yeah, it's either the controller or the flash drive, depending on the event or venue. Sometimes they don't even want me to bring anything, just my headphones. Like
Okay.
I have a 5K that I'm doing this Saturday. They're just like, hey, just bring yourself and your emceeing skills, and we got everything else. But yeah, it's mostly around those two things that I mostly come out with for events.
Now, do you have a favorite type of event? Like, because I used to be a mobile DJ in Colorado, and this is again going back like 18 years. Um, so as a mobile DJ, I worked for a company where we had like a stable of like 20 DJs, and each Tuesday I'd go into the warehouse and find out my 4 or 5 gigs for that week, and it could be, it was corporate events, it was high school dances, it was college frat parties, sorority parties, it was weddings, it was bar mitzvahs. I've DJed a ton of bar mitzvahs, like just a ton of different shit. And I definitely had a hierarchy of which ones like were more fun than others. Spoiler alert: DJing a wedding sucks. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah, I agree. You almost need to take like probably a couple aspirin and say a little prayer or do something, right? Whatever helps you calm your nerves
Yeah,
before you go do a
and
wedding.
not that anybody who's listening to this, I've DJed a few weddings for friends over the years, and obviously doing it for a friend is different. Like, that's always more fun than doing it for a stranger. But it's just the setup of a wedding is like of a wedding reception. Like you can't, especially if you have to be the one making the announcements and doing like the introduction to the bridal party and shit. Like that's a lot of pressure. Like you don't want to fuck up a name. You don't like you know you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
like I
definitely.
always had I always had my nerves on 100 going into those events because I'm like I don't want to be that I don't want to be the reason why people remember this wedding reception because it's like, hey, remember that idiot DJ who flubbed the bridesmaid? Like, so it was just anxious for me. And then like you find once you get through the dinner and all that shit and the first dance and the bouquet toss and the garter toss and all that shit, like once you got to the actual like dance part of the night, like there was only maybe a couple hours left, and then you still had to play a bunch of safe shit that like everybody knows. There's a reason why Celebration gets played at every fucking wedding reception ever. Like everybody knows it. And it's also like it's easy for older people to dance to. You can get grandma out on the dance floor for Celebration. You know what I'm saying? But like
Yeah.
that's not why I got into DJing. Like I want to fucking throw down some fucking bomb tracks and see people get down on the dance floor. And so sometimes at weddings that doesn't even really happen. Now maybe that's because I was a shitty DJ. I'm realizing that now. Maybe I was the problem.
Jeez.
But
I don't
but
think so.
but like so those were definitely on the bottom of my totem pole of like whenever I found out I had to do like 2 weddings in a weekend, I'm like, oh great, this is just gonna fucking suck. But then like the frat parties obviously were the most fun because it's like all you had was like 20-year-old kids who wanted to hear rap and dance music and like nothing else. Um and you didn't have to worry about like playing the censored versions of songs, like so those are always the most fun because it was just like a regular house party more or less.
Yes,
So
definitely. No, I think I believe you're not alone, Chris. I think a lot of people still do the same thing, like or feel the same way. Like I know I do. Unless it's like you said, a friend's wedding. I think a lot of the times you're gonna be a nervous wreck, and I think the main key, and I believe, and if you DJs are listening, you wedding DJs are listening, the main key, and I think I have found it, the secret to this, to not being so super nervous at the wedding reception and or the ceremony if you're going to be doing both or whatever it is getting to know your couple, your bride and groom really well and setting a personal relationship with them, because what happens is that opens up this like new world of, hey, I trust this guy, and even though if he were to mess up, we're just going to laugh about it at the end of the night and have a great time, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that has worked for me. I with complete strangers that I've never met before. They've only known my resume or my information of how I DJ'd or videos or seen things like that. Where you don't make that connection with the person. That's why it's very crucial to set up the appointments with them where it's one on one. Even if you just go to grab coffee and then get the contract signing going, because you want to kind of have that connection with them. And granted, I know that you're not always going to have a connection with everybody, but try your best to do that, and I think you're going to be getting rid of at least 50% of that stress when you get there to the venue. That's just my 2 cents, but
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
I
and
found out it works.
yeah, when I worked for that company in Colorado, there was I actually thought it was really well set up. They would have a very detailed questionnaire that we as the DJing company would have the bride and groom fill out, months in advance of their wedding, where it was like, what type of music do you want played at your wedding? And don't say, I love everything, because first of all, that's a shitty answer. It doesn't help anybody figure out anything. Second of all, everybody says that and everybody is a liar, because not everybody. Well, now you said you fuck with all music, so I believe you, Tony. I'll give you you're the outlier. I believe you when you say that. But like average people who aren't like super into music, if they're just like, oh, I like everything, and then you start naming different genres or bands, and they're like, oh no, I hate that. No, no, I hate country. Well, then you don't like everything. So you know what I'm saying? So the questionnaire would be like, getting into the nitty gritty. Like, do you want it 50% rock and roll? Do you want it 40%, R&B, 80% hip hop, whatever it was, be as specific as you can. If there are certain songs that absolutely must be played, list them here, however many you want. If there are certain songs that you absolutely do not want to be played, list those here as well, so that our DJs, when they go to the event and somebody comes up to request a chicken dance and the bride and groom had already said, like, just do not fucking play that because that's corny as hell. Like, then the DJ knows, So
Exactly.
that was always super helpful for me when I was doing those.
Yeah, definitely. That's huge.
Have you had any DJing horror stories or bad experiences that you
Oh
would
my
mention?
God. Do I ever? I mean, there's tons, but I think the one that really stands out. I was DJing at this like, oh God, it was like a birthday party or something like that, and because a lot of families like to mix everything in one, right? Like, oh, we're gonna do their baptism and then we're doing her birthday party. I'm like, oh, okay, and I mean, it saves money at the end of the day. You don't have to do two parties for two
Sure.
separate, occasions, but it makes sense. But this was like, man, it was far enough where, I don't remember the exact location. I think I'm trying to just totally forget this happened, but it's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
it was far enough where I couldn't just go grab my gear, my extra gear. And normally I'm smart about things, and I carry extra gear in the car.
Sure.
That's why I purchased an SUV so I can carry more. But it tends to happen to everybody. Nobody's perfect. So this day I did not roll with extra gear, and it turns out it wasn't even my fault. But we'll get there to the end of the story. I was at this gig. I was all set up, and during setup, I busted my finger. It was so stupid. I was putting the lighting fixtures up, and I had my friend helping me out at this gig because I knew it was going to be a pain in the butt. And somehow he was holding the fixtures, which I was happy with that he held the fixtures and they didn't break. My finger could heal, but
Yeah.
the tower coming down really fast and hit my finger and like smush it.
Oh.
And at the time, it was bleeding and it was turning purple and everything. And sorry to the sensitive viewers that don't like description, because I know my wife can
They
get
don't
a
even like
little
the word
too.
blood.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They don't even like the word blood, but I'm gonna try to get as less descriptive as possible. But it was just to the point where I thought I would have to get stitches. I was like,
Oh, wow.
damn, I'm at an event. I might have to run to go get stitches. I don't know where the hell is the nearest like facility or even
Yeah.
hospital or nearest like immediate care facility, and if there would even do that. But so
Right.
I just like wrapped it in this like paper towel. I did it really. There was no band-aids around. The venue didn't have anything. I'm like, what kind of place is this? I'm like, this is ridiculous, but whatever. So that was the first thing, and this just the first thing of horrors that were about to happen. So I wrap it up. I get ready. I'm all kind of like, oh god, I'm hurting, but let's do this. So music starts. The event is going smoothly as always, and my friends having a good time. We're just hanging out. We're making sure everything's going to plan, and all of a sudden the sound just cuts off. And every I think every person's nightmare is just the sound cutting off.
Yep.
So obviously I start with the power. That's the main thing you want to start with. I think for anybody listening, start with the power, the fuses, anything like that, because that's going to be the first major issue. But I mean, this place was so big that that shouldn't have been an issue, and it wasn't. So I was happy about that. So I checked all that first. Then I checked all my equipment, make sure everything was on and everything, was turning and everything was turning on properly. So it turns out I use this system. It's a PV Triflex system, and it has its own like little speakers that you still have to plug them into the subwoofer. The subwoofer itself is an all-in-one thing, which is I think a bad thing and a good thing. And the reason why it's a bad thing for this occasion is that this thing was like brand new, but something went wrong with their electronics in there that it was turning on and everything, but it just was not sending sound to my speakers.
Okay.
Now, I did not know this this was after the event and everything that this had happened. That's when I found out about all this. But at the time, I was like, damn, I'm thinking it's my cables. So I made
Sure.
my friend run to the nearest, music place. And it turns out that he kept on texting me. We kept communication on the phone. And he's like, man, I can't find anything near here. I'm going to have to go to this guitar center that it's in Bufu somewhere, right? And I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
well, thank God for Guitar Center being at least somewhere. So he bought the cables, he brought them back to me. We plugged those in, and the worst thing you want to find out is that that's not the
Right.
problem.
Right.
And no sound was coming. The client was getting upset, and I was,
Sure.
hey, it's understandable.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work with her, and I'm trying to calm down the situation. I've learned how to de-escalate situations, so I was
Yeah.
de-escalating as much as I could. Finally, I don't know, man. It was like a sign, like somebody, just looking out after me. This guy in the crowd is a DJ, and he himself, he had mentioned before the event, he was talking to me, and he told me he wasn't. And the reason why I thought this guy was pleasant and a nice guy is because he didn't come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a DJ, and
Right.
I wanna beat you at your craft, and I
Right.
wanna, I'm cooler than you," type thing. No, it was more like, "Hey, I'm just starting out too." Like,
Yeah.
and I told him, "Well, I'm not starting out, but it's okay. I'll let it go."
You're like, I started at 11, son.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that whole like where you want to get your respect, and which I understand. But I didn't tell him anything. I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, and I just kept going with the conversation. Luckily, he had his stuff nearby. He had a couple of speakers that were still okay and they sounded good,
Oh,
and
nice.
he went to go grab them, and he brought everything back. He's like, oh, I brought my controller and everything. I'm like, oh, dude, don't worry about all that. Just bring the speakers. That's all we need right now.
Right.
And luckily, I was able to plug them in and get the party going again. But I had
Excellent.
to, yeah, but I had to take off some money and all that good stuff. Negotiate with the
Yeah.
client so they wouldn't be super unhappy.
Sure.
But yeah, moral of the story is carry at least decent size pair of speakers in your car and extra things that you can carry with you, because you never know what is going to happen. Even when you have brand new gear
Right.
that I
Right.
had, you never know what the hell is going to happen. So I
Yeah.
think that is one of my craziest events, just because a couple of numerous things happen in one. But yeah.
So, that kind of sounds similar to what I always remember is my worst DJing experience was doing a wedding reception. It was one of the first gigs that I had done for this company out in Colorado, and you had to go through like a training period with this company to where like for the first like month, like every gig you went out on, like you were kind of like the assistant to one of his regular established DJs, so you could like, just see how they do everything and all that, which frustrated me because I'd already been DJing house parties and shit. So I'm like, I know how to connect everything. I know how this all works. Like, I know what a fader is. Like, but it was just like company policy. Like everybody had to go through the same training regimen, right?
Of
So
course.
I'm at this wedding and I'm, just kind of there to like help this other person out. And it's at our warehouse was in Denver, and the reception was out in like unincorporated Boulder. It was like probably like close to an hour away as far as a drive.
Uh-huh.
So we get out there and we set everything up. The party's going, everything's going great, and we're getting down to like there's like an hour and a half left in the gig. And I mean, the dance floor is full, everybody's having a great time. Um, the we had the two of us there at the setup, and it's one of those things about Murphy's Law where it's like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Like nobody was being too drunk at the reception, right? Which is another worry as like a DJ. Like people want to come by and like put their fucking drink on your speakers or your mixer, or like it's just like keep your
Yeah.
drink away from anything electronic looking. Like because if even one drop of this getting into the wrong circuit can fry the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a good job of making sure that nobody's like bringing their drinks over by where our setup is at. So the guy who was DJing it was busy talking to somebody, taking requests. I turned around for honestly like 7 seconds. I turned around from like our main like housing unit where the mixer and the CD players like pulled out and everything was like hooked into. I turned away from it for 7 seconds to get the next CD, the next song from the book that was on the table behind us. And in that 7 second period of time, one of the guests, she was drinking like a full glass of wine, and she came over, put the wine glass on top of our mixer setup, and since she was drunk, like she didn't really like even make sure that it was like sturdy on there. So she just like
Yeah.
let it go to go dance, and all of a sudden I turn around and because I see this wine glass just like tumbling in slow motion, and it just gets wine all over the mixer, and like
Oh.
instantly like just the music, like you said, the music cuts out, and then you've got like 100 people immediately turn and look at you like, what the fuck is your problem? Why are we not hearing music right now? Um, and I and
Oh
I
my
turned to I
God.
turned to the guy I was DJing with. I was like, I'm trying to wipe this up, but like the shit is all up in here. Like that was like a full glass of wine, I think. So, so we're trying to like, and then so when we finally got it to, we're jiggling everything around and trying to dry it off and get it going again. And then when we finally got it going, it was like the sound was still coming out, but it was like super quiet and like distorted too. Like it was not a good thing to listen to. Um,
Oh my gosh.
and the father of the bride comes by after like 20 minutes, and he's like, guys, what the fuck is going on here? Like, why are we not hearing music? Can you please fix this? It's been 15, 20 minutes already. I've got guests who are getting pissed off. This isn't what I paid for. The whole deal. Blah 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 blah.
Of
And
course.
then we're like, look, we're really really sorry. We did not foresee your guest putting a glass of wine on our mixer and spilling it. Like this wasn't something that you know we're trying to do the best we can. He's like, well, don't you have a backup system? And I told this guy, I'm like, yeah, we do have a backup system. It's at our warehouse in Denver. It's about an hour away. So if you want me to go get it and then come back here, the party's already going to be over. Like it just happened. It happened at the worst thing happened at the worst time, because
Exactly.
he's like, well, can you just like stay extra then? And I'm like, well, the venue here, like, because the party was supposed to end at 12, and he wanted to
Yeah.
see if we could like play till like 1 o'clock, obviously for the same price, which I would have been down with doing. But I'm like, sir, the venue itself closes at 12:30. Like, I'm really, really sorry, but it just looks like this is one of those things that you know can't
Yeah.
be,
Exactly.
can't be fixed at this point.
Exactly.
So obviously everybody was kind of bummed at the end of that party, and people were leaving early, but it was like, yeah, I mean, ideally you would like to have a backup system, like a replacement for every single thing that you bring out to the event. And I think that's a good idea, ideally. But man, if you're just starting out, or like, if I mean, that shit costs a lot of money. So it's like,
Of
you know what I'm
course. Of
saying?
course.
Like it.
That
So
makes
like,
sense.
yeah. So it was that wedding sticks out of my mind. I've forgotten basically every other wedding I've ever done, except for the ones for friends. But that one sticks out because it was just like, trying to explain to the father of the bride, like, that A, you're not getting the music turned back on because this is beyond our abilities right now, and B, yeah, like sorry that the party sucks now, but there's no fixing it. Sorry, we
Yeah,
ruined
I mean,
your daughter's special day.
right? And I mean, at the same time, too, it's like he should be thinking about the damages, like
Yeah,
there's a contract that states, hey, if any of your guests or yourself were to damage the equipment, you got to pay for it. I mean, like, it's
exactly.
just
So it was like you said, de-escalating. So I'm trying to like, talk with this guy and like talk him down from the ledge, but also it's like I was trying to control my own emotions of anger. Like, dude, you're a fucking idiot guest. She's the one who caused this whole thing, and now she possibly ruined, a fucking mixer that's gonna cut that we're gonna have to replace. We're gonna have to check the cables. We're gonna have to check the amp, like all this shit.
yeah, of
So
course. Damn. Yeah, and
yeah,
then and you know what, you are right about that. Brings back to the bringing the extra stuff, right? Like, your backups. You know what, it is right. I didn't take that into consideration. Not all the times. I mean, I started myself like with just a few pieces of gear because it is expensive, and not
yeah,
all the time you're able to bring like extra stuff, and then you don't know what you're able to bring either. Like, you have so much extra stuff too that you don't know what the heck to bring sometimes. So I also think, yeah, it is a matter of like luck and just, I guess, checking everything before you go out on your gig the best to your ability. And yeah, I mean, anything can go wrong and will go wrong at the time, and
yeah,
that's just the part of the job. I think
yeah,
electronics are like, they can get damaged and they're sometimes not reliable. So
yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
I had I was DJing a backyard party for a friend. This is going back some years too, but um and it was in the backyard of a friend, and everybody's having a good time, and one of my friends like was from inside the house. There was like a window that looked out over the backyard where I was set up and everybody was, chilling, and she was drunk. She thought it'd be funny. She took a glass of water out the window and like poured it from like
Oh,
2 stories up like on my setup. And
what?
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, this is electronic equipment again, liquids and electronic anything. They just don't work well together.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
luckily,
my God.
luckily it didn't like fry anything, but I was really mad. But of course, her being drunk, she just thought it was the funniest thing, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't funny at all.
Yeah, everyone's laughing. It's like, you see me here, I'm not laughing.
Yeah, I may need to get
Not
a new
cool.
$1,000 mixer, but yeah, everybody carry on and have a good time at my expense.
Exactly. Yeah, seriously. That is crazy. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Yeah, those are
S-
those are terrible.
yeah, yeah. So vinyl records. Uh, so you haven't actually bought any. Do you have any that you are hoping to find at the Bin Chickens Fair? Do you have any favorite songs that you would love to have a copy of on vinyl? Do you prefer the sound of vinyl to digital or to CDs? Like, what are your thoughts on all these things?
Yeah, I definitely have an album that I really want to pick up, and that's I was talking to this guy at the bar, and we were talking about like mashups and things like that. Something that's become very popular, and with DJing and producers alike. And he told me about this album by the Humphrey McGee's, and he
Okay.
said it was called Zonky, and he said to check out the album because they do a rendition of just various songs that they cover,
Okay.
and they go nonstop, like, and they make them sound really cool, and they're playing this live with, like, their band, and
Yeah.
he told me to check it out, and that's one that I want to look for. It's very specific, but hopefully I can find it sooner or later.
Yeah.
And as far as the sound of the vinyl, yes, definitely, I am definitely with the audiophiles, with the sound is just crisp, and it's nice to hear that extra sound when when the vinyl and the needle are hitting together.
Yeah.
It's like something you've never if you've never experienced it. For anyone listening, you should. And I'm not saying to just go and buy a really cheap turntable and just start playing your vinyl, because that's not a good thing to do either. But really do some sort of research on it. Get yourself a nice record player, and and play any vinyl that you have available, even if it's just like jazz, because I know I have a jazz album there, and you'll see the difference when you put in the CD and you compare them side to side. You just get extra sounds, especially for the people that love to listen to bands and and love to listen to all the instruments and stuff, you're just able to hear that in there.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling. I would say that's like part
Yeah.
of your day should be where, hey, if you went to work and you struggled all day and you really love music, and because I know some people that are not super big on music, which I don't understand, but
Yeah,
that's
they're
just me.
weirdos.
They're weirdos. That's probably like the 2% in like, you know. But just sit down and play your favorite record. That used to be the common thing to do back then when we didn't have all this crazy, technology.
Yeah.
And you'll see the difference. Just take a seat, have your favorite glass of wine, or your mix up your drink or whatever it is, and those, whatever it is, half hour, an hour, whatever the album length may be, you're going to see that your stress levels are just completely all the way down. And again, this is not coming from a doctor or anything like that, but just from experience, because I don't want to be like giving medical advice to people.
Right. Right. Right.
But most definitely check it out and try that out. I know it for me, it's a huge difference, and I think you would agree with
Yeah.
me, right, Chris, on
Oh,
the sound of a vinyl
yeah.
record.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. And obviously I grew up in this like CD era. Like I bought a CD when I was 12 years old. The first CD I ever bought was Crisscross Totally Crossed Out.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And so actually last year I bought that on vinyl, like, and it felt like a nice little circle had been closed. Like that was my first
Oh,
CD I ever bought, like with my own money, and now I have it on vinyl, which is what I prefer to hear it on. So
nice. That's so cool.
yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, the like you said, when you put that needle onto the record, and then the sound just bursts out of it, like there's nothing better. There's simply nothing better.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Most definitely.
so I wanted to know if you had seen the post about. I think Julie had posted it yesterday. Did you happen to see that post with the that R&B playlist that I had thrown together?
Actually, yeah. Was it the one where the first picture was like blank, but then you had a
Yeah.
couple of things on the next photos? Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, so she had talked to me, a couple days ago about like, she had started a Spotify channel for Bin Chickens for our vinyl fair. So if anybody out there wants to check out some cool playlists, go to Bin Chickens. I think it's Bin Chickens Vinyl Fair on Spotify is how it's listed. Um, but she's like, yeah, so if you want to throw up a playlist, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I had been meaning to throw up a playlist. I don't know if you use Spotify at all.
Yes, every once in a while. I know my wife is huge on Spotify, so I definitely got to tell
Okay.
her about that Ben
Yes.
Chicken's Vinyl Fair. Yeah, that one. So
Yes. So I've
yeah.
I've got I've already got like, 10 or 12 playlists because I listen to Spotify on my way to and from work every day, like commuting on the bus. So I already have playlists, curated of like my favorite songs and shit, but I didn't have one yet for R&B. So I'd already been thinking of it in my personal life the last couple of weeks. Like I got to get some of my R&B jams thrown together because I miss hearing that shit. So when she's like, you should make a playlist, I'm like, perfect. I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll make an R&B playlist because I was going to make one for myself anyway. And I just started adding like all my favorite like 90s R&B jams. And then like I took a look after like 30 after I'd written down like 30 tracks, or after I'd added it to my personal Spotify. I had like 30 songs, and like 20 of them were like male groups or artists, and like only 10 were female. And I was like, I got to balance this out. So, then I started looking for more shit, and then I had just forgotten a whole bunch of shit. So by the end of it, I had like it was it was almost an exact 50-50 mixture of female and male artists.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I was happy for that, but I had also like I had like 70 tracks, and I was like, fuck, because I thought about just loading them all up like as I found them, just like with no rhyme or reason to the order or the vibe or the mood or whatever. And I don't know if it was my OCD personality or if it was the wannabe DJ within me, but I was just like, nah, I gotta try to create some sort of like fucking vibe with this shit. So it took me a really long time. I've never done a 70 track playlist, like trying to like, you know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
that first picture where it's all like blank, where I just knew I had 79 tracks or 70 tracks, and I knew what I wanted to start it off with, the Tony song, and I knew that I wanted to end it with Don't Walk Away from Jade. But as for the other
Nice.
60 odd songs in between, I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go. So on the side of that page, I flipped the notebook like horizontally, and I had I always view like a DJ set as kind of like a roller coaster as far as like if I wanted to, like I wanted to go through different moods like for the crowd. So I
Yeah.
drew kind of like a series of peaks and valleys on the left side, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have up tempo shit, then I'm gonna go into some kind of slower down tempo, then I'm gonna go back up, and you just kind of go back and forth. And then like it just kind of it was a labor of love, but it definitely was laborious to put all of these tracks, like, because like I said, 70 tracks that's a lot of fucking songs. Um,
Yeah.
and then like once I got into like track 15, then I was looking at the tracks that I already put down, and I felt good about, yeah, this is good, this is good. And I was trying to alternate too between like male and female artists. Not every other track had to be one of the like flip flopped, but like I didn't want to have like seven dudes, like seven tracks by dudes in a row, and then like two by female. So like I was trying
Yeah.
to kind of like keep it kind of even, kind of go back and forth. And then I realized like 15 tracks in, I'm like, well, this it looks like maybe there's kind of a story where I'm kind of like thinking like, boy meets girl, and like this is like maybe the story of their relationship, like their affair, like their love affair that they had. And then that's when I really started to think real clearly about like what song is going to go next. And it kind of tells a story if you listen to it track 1 through 70, which I am sure nobody is going to do. But if there's any weirdos out there who do just have like 4 hours to kill and they're going to do nothing but listen to music, I think this is a really good R&B playlist. And it's not definitive. It's not like these are the best R&B tracks that were ever laid down. I don't even think I have a track from prior to 1982 on here, and I know there's a bunch of really, really good R&B shit that came out before 1982, but I just wasn't listening to that when I was a teenager. A lot of these songs, like I was listening to, 92, 93, 94, like up through, the early 2000s. Um, and then, a couple more recent vintage as well. But, but yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it. And, I got frustrated because so then I had to like upload it all I wrote it all down first, right? Like, and I was listening to each song just to make sure, like, how one song ended, like, and then how the next song begins. Like, does it sound all right? Like, does it sound good? So I wrote it all down in a notebook, and then I still had to go into Spotify and actually, search all the songs and add them one by one to the playlist. Um, so by the time that was finally done, and I uploaded it to our Bin Chickens Vinyl Fair playlist, and then I went to like play it to like make sure that I got in the right versions too, because Spotify, you know, there's some songs that have like 20 different versions of it on there because they're on different compilation albums. Some of them might be the edited version, some of them might be a different mix entirely. I actually had to scratch one of the songs that was going to be on the list, a track called My Love Is the from Something for the People. I had to remove that from the list because the only version that Spotify has is a remix and it sucks. Like the original one was the one that like I had in my mind, and then when I went to go add it, it was like shit, it's not even on here. Um, but once I had everything uploaded, then I went to go check it out, like listen to it, just to make sure. I was just going to listen to the first couple seconds of each track just to make sure it was the right ones. And I couldn't listen to the playlist. It was only shuffle play.
Oh
Like
wow.
that was the only way that you could listen to it. I was like, did I just spend all this time trying to have this order 1 through 70, like with a purpose, with reason, and now it's like it doesn't even matter because you can only listen to it via shuffle play. So I was like, I was a little
Oh
upset
my
about it.
god.
But then when I looked at it today, I went to the playlist and it looks like you can just start from track one and then it'll just play through. So I don't know what
Okay.
I don't I don't know if I was just like delirious yesterday by the end of it and I wasn't seeing the option, but yeah,
It could have been. I mean, it looks like you spend a lot of time on this, so kudos to you, man. That's a lot of work.
it was a lot of work. But yeah, like I said, it was a labor of love. By the time I was done with it, I was like, I'm proud of this shit. I like this shit. So hopefully, if even one other person in my life goes and listens to that playlist and says, "Man, you had some really good shit on there," then that would make it completely worth it, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And if somebody listens to it and says, "I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you, Chris. Those songs suck," then I'd be like, "Well, there's something wrong with you." I just wouldn't talk to that person.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's gonna be good. I mean, anything around that time was key. So R&B was just flowing through that time, especially in the '90s. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm excited to hear it, man. I might take a peek on that.
Yeah, there's.
playlist, and we go through it.
I'm telling you, man. Out of 70 tracks, there's got to be at least like 10 tracks that you probably haven't like heard in like a really long time, and maybe had forgotten about, and then you're gonna hear it and you're gonna be like, "Oh, this song is the jam."
Yeah,
So
yeah, of course. And that's what makes it worthwhile too, finding all those playlists that are kind of, just have a little bit of everything in there, but it's the same genre. No,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
So
Wow, 70.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna attack, tackle something like that large again in the near future. It's gonna be a while. But as far as the the Bin Chickens Vinyl Fair event, which in case anybody's listening who hasn't heard when it is, it's Saturday, June 15th. I think it's 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks from Saturday. Um, you are going to be one of the DJs there. I think right now, because I was trying to like slot out like the time slots, because I think we've got 5 DJs, and then we're going to have the charity that we partnered with, Musical Arts Institute. They have like a 7-piece jazz ensemble.
Ooh,
So
that's
they're
awesome.
going to be performing. Yeah, it's there, and Julie and I went to go see them. They were fucking great. So they're going to be performing there as well. So I think I have you slotted in at 4 o'clock to 5.
Okay.
Um, so, you're a closer. Not that there's extra pressure, but there is extra pressure. I mean,
Oh God.
you're gonna be wrapping a bow on this thing. So,
Oh
but
jeez.
I'm looking. No, but I'm just kidding. It's not extra pressure. But I'm looking forward to hearing your set, man. Like, how do you get ready for an event like this? Like, are you gonna be coming with like a pre-planned, like, order of songs and shit, or like did you fly by the seat of your pants? Because I know guys who have done it both ways, and there's pros and cons to both approaches, certainly.
Exactly, exactly. Lately when it comes to like a special event, an event that I know I want to make sure that I play the tracks that I think people are gonna like or love to listen to, and or even check out for the first time, and tracks that I know I'm comfortable with, just with the sounds and everything in there. So I might just, obviously I'm not gonna pre-mix it. I'm gonna mix everything live. I
Right.
like mixing. I like mixing live, even if I make a little mistake here
Sure.
and there. Every I think every DJ, that's what they aspire to, just doing things live. But as
Yeah.
far as the playlist, yes, I might conduct a playlist. I won't share a lot of details on it because I want you
Sure.
guys to kind of,
Sure.
be
Sure.
excited to listen to it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
yeah, definitely. But I think it's going to be a combination of, some tracks that, are out there that people already know, like will recognize, if it's like lyrically or vocally, and I'll still be sticking to the like house genre though. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be cool because you still get the best of both worlds. You get tracks that you probably never thought were gonna be on a house track and are on a house track and sound good. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a little bit of that and a little bit of both. I'm definitely gonna be, obviously this is no competition with the other DJs or anything like that, but I'm definitely going to be kind of, even though I'm going to close it out, I'm definitely going to be kind of bringing you guys to a different vibe from whatever the other guys are going to play, because it's a total different, genre and
Yeah.
style of DJing. So
Yeah.
I hope everybody's excited. I mean, and I hope they stick around. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody away. Like
Yeah.
as long as it's not a dubstep, right, Chris? I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. As long as you avoid dubstep entirely, I'm gonna enjoy the shit out of whatever you throw down, buddy. For sure.
Yeah, so yeah, no, definitely very excited for this, and now even more excited that I get to be the one of the last guys there. It doesn't, you know what, if you go first or last, I mean, for me it really doesn't matter. I've been in a lot of gigs where I go first, but I do think that even if you say that there's no pressure, you're just being nice, but but I still think that the opener and the closer have two huge responsibilities, as well as the middle person in the group, because obviously your opener must open the up the show, even though we're not really doing a lot of crazy showcasing here. It's not like a huge like EDC concert show, right?
Right.
But
Right.
you still have to get like guests that are gonna come in kind of clean, focused in. Hey, the music's going on, and you got to bring them into a certain vibe. And then towards the middle of the event, you don't want to lose them too much, and have people starting to leave because, oh man, it's a consistent of the same sound. And
Right.
then towards the end, you still want to bring them something even newer to what has been happening the whole night, because you want them to stick around towards the end. And I definitely don't want the jazz band, jazz ensemble to have no one listening. So I hope everybody really sticks through the whole event. I think it's going to be awesome. Chris and Julie have been setting this up, and along with all the vendors and everything. I've been looking at everybody on Instagram, and it's turning out to be just really cool. So I'm excited, Chris. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to throw down.
That's awesome. I am excited, but then like having this conversation with you again, it gets me more amped up. Like I said, like when you had texted me saying that you're gonna be like deep house and tech house, I'm like, those are definitely two strands of house that I couldn't name a single track. I couldn't name a single artist that, would be accepted by those gatekeepers of those genres as being like, yes, you know what this is. So like I was intrigued because I was like, no, I want to fucking know. I've obviously heard of these. I've heard of these genres for years, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I get locked into my own shit and I don't kind of venture outside of my preferred things. But like, so when you sent that, I was like, oh, sweet. Like I just want to fucking just like really pay attention and like just get a feel for these genres. So I'm just stoked about that too. And the fact that you're going to be going last, like it's going to kind of be like that excites me too because then it's like this new thing for me personally and it's like right at the end of this event, so it's like hopefully a lot of the possibilities for bad things happening will have already passed by that point, so it should just be like nice. It should be a nice time for me to relax as far as like, okay, we're in the home stretch here, so
Yeah,
I'm
we're rocking and rolling.
yeah. So I'm really looking forward to your set for that reason. So yeah, great. Well, I'm excited. Thank you very much for your time here, Tony. It was great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'm always appreciative to even talk for a little bit about anything, and us geeking out about DJ stories and things like that and equipment is it's been awesome. It's been
That's
a while, man, since I could just like truly just have a full on conversation with somebody else who really gets it and who really
yeah,
knows the craft and and the equipment wise and everything in one. So it's been a hey, it's the pleasure is all mine, and thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on here. This is awesome.
that's awesome, man. I appreciate all those words. So you have a good night, and I'll be talking to you, I'm sure, before the event. But again, looking forward to that set, man.
Oh, awesome, man! I'm looking forward to myself and seeing everybody and all the vendors and all the cool stuff that they're gonna have, and you know, I'm excited, guys. See you all
Yeah.
June 15th. Don't
June
miss it.
15th, Saturday, 11 to 5 p.m. It's going to be, well, 12 to 5 if you don't want to go in the early admission, but we are going to be there rocking from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Rock Bottom Brewery, Grand and State, downtown Chicago. Hopefully the weather works out and it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a great time. Tony, you have a good night. I will talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you. Talk to you soon,
See ya.
buddy.